Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. It is episode 4 of our 4-part series. We're going to wrap up our conversations with Anthony and Michael today as we're talking who's the best in the ACC, who's the top 3 predictions. Also, who is the conference realignment? What's our thoughts on all that? And who's going to win some awards this season? We'll talk about all the predictions and so much more here on Locked On Clemson, all sports, all passion, all of the time, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. So glad you're here. My name is Sean Bivens. You can follow us over on X. With us, we got Michael from Duke Blue Central over here. We've got Anthony down below with Richland County Sheriff Department. Great. Yeah, there we go. From On Patrol Live. You've probably seen him over there. Guys, welcome to the final episode of this series. I appreciate y'all putting in the work. 4 days in a row, the same shirts. I'm going to buy you both new shirts for Christmas. I had to make the joke. I've done it already, so I had to make the joke. I'll get you a shirt with our logo on it right here.
There you go. There we go.
But anyway, so question is warming up for today. Here's your question. Pretty simple. If you could have dinner with any athlete, past or present, who would it be and why? I'll give you a little bit of time to think. Mine would be definitely probably Brian Dawkins. I'm between Brian Dawkins and Jeremiah Trotter. I'm a big Clemson fan, big Eagles fan. I'd love to talk to Brian Dawkins about how it feels to be one of the best ever at his position at Clemson and then be one of the best ever at his position in the NFL for the Eagles. So being able to have a conversation with him regarding 2 of my favorite sports of all time, that'd be sweet.
Go ahead, Michael.
You got one? Okay. I think I can go. I'll get, or for
if not, I can go.
No. For if I'm picking like for people, I'm a big fan. I guess I'm a big fan of everybody. Like Jeter was my favorite growing up. So like that would be fun. Coach K, I don't know if you consider him an athlete.
No,
it'd be fun to talk with him. If
Almost
I'm going for a guy, a wild card answer. If I'm going from a guy I'm a huge fan of, and who I also think people don't know about these questions, like the dinner would be very awkward. Who I also think would be very fun at dinner would be Lamar Jackson of the Ravens quarterback. Everything I see of him is very fun. Seems like a fun guy to just be around, and I'm a Ravens fan as well. So that my wild card answer would be Lamar Jackson, who's a current guy. So that's good.
Anthony, who you going?
Yeah, it's difficult because like you said, there's also the greats that we grew up watching, right? Obviously, I've already said I'm a big Red Sox fan, so having a dinner with Big Papi would be cool, something like that, right?
Yeah, I would like that too, even fun. As a Yankee guy.
That'd be fun.
But honestly, I would lean towards, and this is tough, but I think I'm going to lean towards Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is one of the guys that obviously I grew up. I was very young when he was at NC State, but obviously he was our claim whenever he got to the NFL. That's how I chose my NFL team. I kind of slacked off on pulling for the Chargers ever since he retired. I know he's with the Colts for a little bit, but
would you get a table for 2 or would you get a table for 20 so his kids could come?
I would love for his kids to come because I want to talk to his oldest son, which is going to be a future Wolfpack in a couple of years. So, yeah, bring them all. Why not?
Good answers. I'll throw it out. 4 episodes in a row. I had to pull it out. Good answers.
Good answers, Steve.
All right, let's jump into some football conversations. Everyone here on Locked On has heard my opinions on the conference realignment and everything going on there. That is huge right now in college sports, with SEC bringing in some powerhouses, making them 16 teams. ACC just adding 3 teams this year with Stanford, Cal, SMU, who we've all ranked. Clemson and FSU, they're in the middle of this court case. They're in the middle of where they're going to go. We've heard rumors that Big 12. We've heard rumors Big 10. We've heard rumors not SEC. What are y'all's thoughts on it? Let's let the Locked On Clemson listeners hear another perspective.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of on the boat of like I don't know where the heck this thing is all going. It seems like they want to leave the ACC. I think Florida State definitely wants to leave, and I think Clemson is more than just a little interested in leaving because of the whole maybe things will change now that the playoff is 12 team, but I think because of money, maybe that's the biggest one, and because of the whole pressure to go undefeated in the ACC, or else your ranking is going to drop tremendously because the other conferences are better, which I do think they are. Now, are they always treated fairly? Probably not. But I think those are some motivating factors. I love the ACC. I would love to see it stick around and become an amazing conference. Going to be hard to do that with all the teams that are in the Big Ten and the SEC, how much money those teams have and how much of like football programs those teams are. It's just hard to dethrone that. So I don't know where this is all heading. But personally, I'd love to see the ACC remain intact. Obviously, I'm an ACC guy for a lot of sports. Love to see it remain, but I don't know where this ship is headed. It seems like we're either headed towards there are two super conferences, and it's almost like there are two conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, and then every other conference is almost considered like how Group of Five is considered now, how non-Group of Five. So instead of like a Group of Five power conferences, it'll be the two power conferences, and then everybody outside of that is kind of like outside of the mix. Or are we headed towards one just super conference of everybody where, you play three teams you have on your schedule every season, and then the rest of it's just like up in the air of like you're going to go all over the country. We'll see where it's headed. But yeah, I'm along for the ride, but I'd love to see the ACC stay intact.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Michael 100%. Obviously, growing up, just like him, is ACC. That's what we grew up with. That's a big thing in North Carolina,
Yeah.
or the East Coast, I would say, I guess, but big in North Carolina, especially around basketball time. I would really, really hate to see the ACC go. I would hate for us to turn into the Pac-12 and only have two schools remaining. I don't even know which two schools it would be, but I think that would be detrimental. But I don't think there's really much we can do to prevent this because, like you said, it's whether it's chasing the money or just having the better competition. Because like Florida State last year didn't make it in, it's like people feeling like they're getting snubbed. I don't know what the case is. I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to end up being like a two-team conference, or like you said, the requirements. I agree with that a lot. You play certain teams throughout a year, and then the rest of it is a free for all, and whoever can schedule who ends up playing. That's who you get to play. So hopefully you have good connections with coaches, so you can have a good schedule. So if it's up to me, though, yeah, I'm big ACC. I would love to keep it around as long as we can. I know the two schools you named, Florida State, Clemson, are in the battles of trying to get out. Excuse me. That would definitely hurt for sure. Football, 100% football. I mean, those are two teams we haven't even got to in our rankings yet. Spoiler if you didn't listen to the other episodes. But yeah, that's the main thing. I think overall in other sports, I think it would be okay because I think we pull in overall enough championships from other sports, not just the big sports.
You're just missing an Elite Eight run from this past year, but whatever.
What do you mean?
I'm just kidding.
Clemson Clemson Elite Eight, of course, yeah. That would be detrimental to basketball. I 100%
get what. No, I get what you're saying for sure. I was just kidding. I agree with you.
And I like the idea of shortening a conference schedule and playing more teams from outside. Like I like that. Like for example, Auburn signed a play, basically like a home and away against Cal a couple seasons ago. They went to Cal last year. The Cal is coming to Auburn this year. I like the idea of teams playing from all different parts of the country. I don't think you have to like destroy the conference system to do that, though. I do get a little tired sometimes in the ACC football seasons of like just playing the same exact teams, and it feels like the same guys. There's a part like the rivalry games are good. I'd love to see them like shorten it and open it up, but at this point, it's too late to pull the trigger on that. You gotta do something.
There's got to be ways that you can still keep rivalries in there, though, because like
yes, yeah.
For example, like I was saying earlier, Miami and Florida. Like if you consider those, they're both in-state. They changed it. They're playing at the beginning of the year. I know Florida and Florida State play at the end, but but your in-state, whether it's I mean, you could even move South Carolina and Clemson. Doesn't have to be the last game of the year, but as long as you can keep some ties, I think that's the most important thing for sure.
Yeah, maybe instead of playing 8 conference games, you play 6, and you get 2 more non-conference where you can go play a Big Ten or an SEC school like early in the year, or even middle of the year. Change the format up.
You can't move. Just throwing this out there. You can't move Clemson, the South Carolina game. They tried this year, and ESPN and ACC asked Dabo. He said no, and they're still mad at him about it. So
we'll see. Some games. I remember like Auburn used to play Georgia and Bama within 3 weeks of each other, and that was kind of the tradition. Like Auburn would play Georgia, play like a random FCS school, and then play Alabama, and then they moved Georgia up to like middle of the season for Auburn. Or really early. We played them like second, or they played them like second in the year at some points. So nothing is sacred. But yeah.
Let me ask you this. We'll end this conversation with this because we could go all day talking about this topic. Let's say Clemson for sure leaves the ACC. Give an elevator pitch on where you think they go.
I think, obviously, just reading and listening to other things, I think they probably end up going to the Big Ten. I think I've seen a lot of that. I would like them to go to the SEC mainly for football. I think they would fit in. I don't know if they'd be as powerhouse as they are now, but I would love to see them in the big level competition, especially for football season.
Yeah, I don't know. If I had to say where they should go, I'm with Anthony. I'd like to see them go in the SEC, especially because they have slightly less team. The Big Ten already has I can't even remember 18. How many teams, 18 schools. Are they going to add two more if FSU? But I'd like to see them in the SEC just regionally. That makes more sense. I know, John, you've talked about them joining the Big 12. To me, that doesn't make a ton of sense because it's like I think the Big 12 probably has, especially with Texas and Oklahoma, has been better than the ACC. But now that they're missing those teams, they feel like it would be like a lateral move and not as much of an upgrade. So if they're going to move, go to the Big Ten or the SEC, in my mind.
I think mine would be, obviously, I think SEC makes the most sense with obviously really good at football. SEC football schools conference for sure. Basketball have some talent, but definitely don't have the best talent in the nation. I think ACC, Big Ten still have that, in my opinion. So I think it makes sense there. The reason I think they go to Big 12 is this. I think SEC, their president has been adamant how they're good with 16. At their media day, he said 16 teams is our today, our tomorrow, and our future. So his comments are pretty strong against adding any more. Granted, you're in the middle of court cases, so you're not going to be very adamant about wanting 2 schools in the middle of a court trial. And then Big Ten, the reason Big Ten I'm curious about, and I don't know if we'll go there, is they're big on AAU certified. Only one school, and that's Nebraska, is not AAU certified or AAUU certified in the Big Ten. They're huge on that. It's almost a mandate. I know our board has talked about going through the steps for us to get there, but we're not now, so I don't know how that would happen. But yeah, so that's that on conference realignment. Let's go ahead and switch this up. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're doing this. You're burning rubber. You're not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. That is ebaymotors.com. let's talk about our rankings finish up our rankings. We got 3 schools left where we have these ACC predictions for finishing. We'll go with number 3. Anthony, lead it away. I have NC State at 3rd.
I have NC State at number 2.
Ooh.
I've
Michael,
got
where you
State
got them?
2 as well.
Do you really? I really thought you were going to say 4.
Nope.
That's what I really did too.
I think I'm at 4 with Michael now. Uh-oh.
I've got NC State at 2, and that's what I'm saying right now.
All right. Let's hear y'all's thoughts on them.
So
ahead,
I
Anthony.
am very, very excited for this season, more so than I have been in a long time. I'm excited. We brought in, 15 commits, ranked number 5 in the ACC in transfers. And then we still bringing back some big names. Kevin Concepcion is probably the biggest name that we're bringing back. Rookie of the Year in the ACC last year. 10 touchdowns, 800 yards, almost 900 yards. I think he is going to be vital for our success this year. NC State's schedule this year doesn't look too terrible. We do have to go to Cal, which is going to be rough, and then we play at Clemson, and then we have the neutral game against Tennessee. Could be a booster in week 2, so I'm looking forward to that. We have Grayson McCall coming in as our quarterback. NC State loves quarterbacks. They call us QBU. Just throwing it out there. Yes, they do. I promise. We produced a lot of NFL quarterbacks. a lot of when you watch it. I guess you probably don't watch their games, but they'll always show up the graphic of all the NC State quarterbacks that have made it to the NFL.
Who is it? Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson. He counts.
No, he doesn't.
Yes,
he
does
not count. They
counts.
kicked him out. They said you don't.
Chose to go to play baseball.
Oh yeah.
And then when he came back,
Glennon, which also went to the NFL.
Mike Glennon, Ryan Finley, not Ryan Finley.
Yep, he did make it in the NFL.
All elite level.
Jacoby Brissett.
Oh,
I'm just throwing the people out here.
No disrespect to Jacoby.
Go ahead. I want to hear the Duke quarterbacks that's made it.
We have a starter right now for the New York Giants.
Really good.
He's a starter in the league. I also didn't say Duke was QBU.
I'm just making sure people.
Okay, all right. I like it though.
All right. So you're I think. Go ahead.
So bringing in Grayson McCall, I was looking at his stats from Coastal. He threw for 2,400 yards, 2,800, 27. Last year was a down year, 1,900. But 26 touchdowns. His touchdowns to interception ratio is really good. 26-3, 26-3, or 27-3, 24-2. So he doesn't turn the ball over. Look forward to that. I'm really looking forward to the Duke running back coming in. Jordan
Waters,
yes. Thank you for that. I think he's going to be he's a redshirt senior coming in, a lot of experience, so I think he's going to be our solid running back. Noah Jones transferred from Ohio State, so that's going to help out, balance out Concepcion. He's not going to be the only wide receiver that we have this year. And then we also have Coach Dave Doran. Been able to build a successful program, in my opinion. Obviously, we haven't made it to the top tier of what everybody wants to be, but in 9 of his seasons, he's had 7+ wins, and 4 of those he's had 10. I think that we have a lot of hope for this year, and I think we get double-digit wins this year.
Michael, go ahead, sir.
And in the playoffs.
I don't think that's far-fetched. I love NC State's roster this year. I think they were what was the 9-4 overall last year, 6-2 team in the conference that I think got better in the offseason. I think they improved at a lot of their transfers. Like, although maybe they didn't get as many as other schools, they're extremely impactful. Like, you just listed like 4 that are instantly going to start. And I am a huge Grayson McCall fan. I watched like probably more of him than the average person. Just like watching, what's that? Yeah. Just probably watching like, yeah, but watching more like the lower tier conferences play. He was a guy I was hoping Liberty would go after, and maybe even Auburn. But yeah, Liberty's quarterback return, so it didn't make sense. But he was coached by Jamie Chadwell, who is Liberty's current coach. McCall is an awesome quarterback. The guy can sling it. Like you said, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, is a really good athlete, can run when he needs to, can throw the deep ball really well. I think he's going to vie for one of the better QBs in the ACC this season. Maybe the highest impactful transfer. Him and Cam Ward, I think, are going to go back and forth on that. Defensively, are they going to be quite as good as last year? Maybe not for me. But with the additions they got on offense, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I think Dave Dorian is a great coach. You combine high impact transfers, one of which being a quarterback who I think is going to be one of the top in the conference, with like already returning some solid core group of guys, good head coaching situation. Look, like I said, they won 6 games in the conference last season, and I think they probably got better. So where else can they go? I think they're in the championship game this season.
Yeah, y'all talked about a lot. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be really well. I think they'll increase. I think they'll get better. Their transfers obviously can play really well. That 1-2 punch with quarterback, running back, both transfers is going to make a good one. They're trending in the right direction. I know Dave Doran a couple of years ago, he's been there a while, 11 seasons now? About halfway point. Wasn't there a couple of years in a row, like 5th, 6th, that they were considering firing? Like that was a rumor, hot seat was going on.
Yeah, he had dead in the middle. He had like a 4-win season.
Yeah, I remember after that it was like, ugh. Yeah. But then since then, and they've won at least 8 games in the past 6 years, or past 6 out of 7 years, they've won 8 games. I think they're like 16-8 in the ACC play since 2021. They're trending in the right direction, and I think this year's going to be a huge year for them. So excited to see it.
Finishing 3rd again for you, though.
I have them 3rd, and we'll talk. I almost had them 2nd. I'll talk more about that placement with the Nets team, which is number 2. I have FSU at number 2.
I have Florida State at number 1.
I do as well. Number 1.
Y'all sleeping. Let's throw that out there. All right, Florida State. Let's talk about them. I have them at 2. I don't think they're going to go back to back. I think I'll be honest with you. The first time I did this ranking, I had one still the same. I had NC State at 2, Miami 3, Louisville 4, and FSU 5. But I have them at 2, and here's the only reason. I think people are getting so caught up in the success from last year that they had, and they had some great success. But they had Jordan Travis at the quarterback, who was an outstanding quarterback. This year, they're getting DJU, which as a person, I love him. He played excellent at Oregon State. But this year, we're going to find out if the problem with DJU is him or if the problem was Clemson quarterback coaches when he played for Clemson. This year, we're going to get that answer, because if he comes back and plays terrible at Florida State, then we just know the competition he's playing with Oregon State, that was the difference. Whereas if he comes out and plays great with Florida State, it fans that fire of this Clemson not good at producing quarterbacks, or which we have 2 starters in the NFL right now, so whatever you want to say. But it becomes that. So I'm very hit or miss. I think they'll be top 5. I'm putting him at number 2 because I think DJU has the capability to continue this team going well. Mike Norville is a great coach of the year last year. So I have him finishing at number 2.
So I have them at number 1. I think they're going to actually build off of their season from last year, 13-1. I think DJ. He's going to at least at a minimum do the same kind of stuff that he did at Oregon State last year, which is going to be enough for in the ACC to get them back to the championship. They brought in 17. They had 17 transfers, the best in the ACC. 10 of those were 4 stars. Bringing up the majority of those guys are defense. I think their defense is going to be what is the best for them this year. Guys like Marvin Jones Jr. transferred from Georgia. They got a bunch of Alabama transfers. Like I said, I think, in my opinion, they should have made it to the playoffs last year. But I think they're going to repeat DJ's numbers last year was really good at Oregon State, 2,600 yards, 21 touchdowns. And then, I mean, similar numbers at Clemson. I think he's going to be over 2,000 again at Florida State, if not probably the best that he's had in his career, just because I think the talent at Florida State is probably the best that he's probably had around him in his career.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Florida State, top to bottom, roster-wise, to me, has to be considered the most talented roster in the league, in the ACC. Now, that doesn't always mean you win the league. But for them, for a year in which, we've talked about quarterback play, I don't think DJ is going to be the best quarterback in the ACC, but I think he will be good enough surrounded by all the other talent at FSU to have a year where they, maybe lose one conference game or, who knows, even two, depending on how the top teams play each other. But yeah, from a talent perspective, FSU is right there. 7th nationally, I think, in transfer rating. And like you said, a ton of transfers from elite level schools, and not just bench riding transfers, but guys who played. You're talking about, guys who have played for the biggest programs. And I think Mike Norvell proved a lot last year from a coaching perspective. And I just think it's hard for me to pick against the team that just went undefeated in conference play. I'm not going to say easily, but yeah. And I know they had Jordan Travis, a quarterback. I think he was definitely a big part of their success. I don't think he was everything, and I think DJ will be able to maybe not totally fill those shoes, but fill them enough to win the conference or be right there at the top.
This episode of Locked On Clemson is brought to you by FanDuel. Guess what, guys? I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. Whew, man, FanDuel has got you covered. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up some bets anytime I'm in the mood. I'm telling you guys, it's at your leisure. You can be laying on the couch, twinkling your little toes, and you say, you know what? I want to drop a bet in this bad boy right now. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. Yes, every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
I think it's going to be interesting to see. It's definitely going to be fun to watch at the top to see who happens. Let's move on. Talk about the main school. The reason why we're all here. I'm just kidding. Kind of. Talk about, I have Clemson finishing first. I think they're going to return back to first in the ACC this year. So that means y'all both, Anthony, you have them at 3 and Michael at 4?
No, I have them at 2. Or 3, sorry. Yeah, 3.
Yeah, 3. Michael at 4.
Got him 4th.
Yeah. Y'all go first, and then I'll wrap us up.
You want to hit it, Anthony?
Sure. So, yeah, I think obviously Clemson's going to keep doing what they've been doing the past couple of years. They're going to – last year was a little down year. They finished 9-4. Was it 4th or 5th they finished in the ACC?
6th.
6th. Okay. So, yeah, definitely a down year compared to recent seasons. I think they make a bounce back. I don't think they are fully back as the top-tier team of the ACC yet. I think they could be. I think Dabo needs to dive in and get some transfers. Again, what I've been saying the past couple episodes is I think that's what people need, and I think that's what's for me, for NC State. I think that's going to be our success this year. I think Dabo needs to kind of not be stuck in the bringing them up. I think that does have its benefits for sure, like you were saying earlier. But I think at the end of the day, if you can go out there and get you a 4, maybe even a 5-star recruit, I think you got to go for it, I think Cade's going to have another big year, 2,800 yards last year, 19 throwing and 9 rushing touchdowns, or 4 rushing touchdowns. Is that right, John?
Yeah, I think so.
I think either way, I think he's still going to be throwing over 2,000 yards, maybe 2,500 yards, if not more than that. I think he's going to do pretty good. I think their toughest contest, I don't think they have a promising big start to the schedule. They got Georgia, And then again, they play NC State, which I think is going to be a great game. Got to go to Florida State. Y'all have a tough schedule, and I just don't see it. I don't see Clemson. I think there's a chance that they could end up being a double-digit win team, but I see them more at the 8 or 9 again this year wins.
Yeah, for me, when I'm looking at where I'm going to place them, it's, well, what did they do last year? Well, they were 6th place. They went 4-4 in conference play and went 9-4 overall. So obviously not the season they wanted. So to me, I think, what did they do in the offseason that is going to just make me put them higher? When I compare to some of these other teams that like were around the same finishing point as Clemson last year, what they did in comparison, I don't think Clemson did as much to improve. And I don't see a lot of reason for me to pick a team that finished 6th to all of a sudden jump to winning it when I don't see and look, I'm not looking into it as much as you, John, certainly, but I don't see the improvement in the roster to where you can all of a sudden go win the league after finishing 6th and losing 4 conference games. I think there's areas where this team may have gotten worse. I think losing Shipley is a massive loss. Now Maffa is a great running back, but he didn't have to do it all by himself last year. He is going to be leaned on way more this year. And then you've got the quarterback situation. Cade was disappointing last year. There's no two ways around it, I think. Is he going to improve? Probably, yes. Is it enough to lift a team, out of the mud against a great defensive, like if they're playing a defense like Florida State, is his play going to be enough to just rise, lift them up and conquer that game? I don't think so. And I think watching Clemson last year, the thing that stuck out to me, defensively, they're great. That's not been that much of a question for me. But offensively, you look around the field and it's like, where are the weapons that you're used to seeing? Where are the big tight ends? Where are the slot receivers that catch anything you throw at them? Running back's been good. Shipley's excellent, and Maffa's got a lot of really exciting things about him. And they have a good recruiting class, yes. They were, in the ACC, they're second to Miami, and Florida State is right there behind them. So those other teams are recruiting pretty dang well as well. So are those freshman recruits going to be enough to really improve upon what they did last year? I don't know. I obviously don't think so. I think, and not to say I don't think this is where Clemson is hitting. I just think they've hit a down year of the recruits they recruited have not panned out the way that they thought they would and turned into these stars that they normally have. I think they'll get some in the future years. But again, for me, it comes down to they finished 6th last year. What did you do to improve? Well, yeah, you signed some recruits. You guys are coming back. That's great. And they could get better. But you also lost some guys. And the teams around you are getting huge high-level transfers and recruits. So I just couldn't find a reason to put them higher than other schools. And that could absolutely come back to bite me. But that's where I stand on them.
Here's my opinion. I think y'all made some great points for sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of question marks out of this team. This is probably the team with the most question marks that I've seen heading into a season, because in the past it was like, oh yeah, we're questioning about these positions, but we know we have this solid foundation. And this year there's argue that we don't have that. I'll say this, the reason I have them 1 is the reason, Michael, that you said you had them lower, and it's only because of this. Talking about the offseason additions, when I look at last year's losses, you can really identify about 7 plays that if we change the outcome of those 7 individual plays over the whole season, we're sitting at 1 lost game. Two big fumbles against Duke, 1 on the goal line, 1 in the red zone, a missed field goal away from a victory against Florida State, and then another opportunity in overtime against Florida State where Cade clubbed that made the wrong lead. There's a couple individual single moments that changed the forecast of the entire season. And a lot of those moments came down to 2 different things. 1, offensive line, and 2, lack of explosive receivers, lack of weapons. The problem with offensive line was I don't think it was the players. I think we've got great players there. It was the coaching. The coaches were slacking. You could see they weren't making the adjustments needed. We brought in Matt Luke, which is one of the best offensive line coaches in all of college football. He's coming in, already making great progress, already bringing in top recruits, seeing a change there. So I'm excited about the format there. Our weapons, Adam Randall and our other receivers last year, Troy Stellato, TJ Moore, those weapons, they were also, two of those were supposed to be filler guys, with Stellato and TJ Moore were supposed to be kind of the filler roles to get us to our next weapon. Then we had Williams was supposed to be our main, and Randall were supposed to be our main receivers. Well, both of them got hurt. And then when they came back, one was nothing like what he was supposed to be. One was just, so that hurt with the receivers for sure, because we definitely didn't have weapons for Cade to look at. This year we've got TJ Moore coming in, who is going to be a baller. I mean, he's sick. In spring game, he looks sturdy. All the camps, he's looking amazing. Bryant Wesco's another freshman coming in. So I think because the offensive line is improving, Garrett Riley has another year under his belt of OC. The dirt rate is really going to come into play with a better offensive line with Phil Maffa. Looking at him, I think he's going to have a better year than Will Shipley had at all at Clemson, because when you look at him, the more reps he gets in the game, the better he performs. And so I think he's going to be explosive this year. Our defense, like you said, I'm not going to talk about a lot because it's great. Our defense is always great. We're only returning 2 starters on defense, but out of the ones that are still returning that weren't a starter, they started some games. They played in a majority of snaps because we definitely play a platoon defensive scheme. So that's why I'm high on them. Obviously, maybe a little bias showing up, but I think we'll have that. I could see us being a 10-2 team for sure. I think we'll have Georgia loss. I think there's a chance we beat them. And here's why I say that. Real quickly, I'll say this. When we lost to Georgia last time we played them, we lost 10-3. It was a 3-3 game except for a pick 6. So we didn't allow an offensive score. We didn't score offensively. Since that time, I think Georgia's offense has gotten a little bit worse than where they're at. I think Georgia's offense is probably here's where they were. Our defense, I would say same level, maybe a small decrease. So definitely not the gap that their offense have gone. And then you look at Clemson offense, and I think our offense is better than we were then. And I think our defense, or their defense, is worse than they were. So because of that, now am I saying that we're going to go out and win week 1? No, I'm not. I'm not saying mark it down, we're going to win, but I think there's a chance there. And then obviously we've got 3 other tough games. We've got Florida State, we've got NC State, we've got some tough opponents, but I think 10-2 is very manageable. 11-1 is very manageable. So we'll see what happens. I'm very high on them.
Yeah, 11-1 would shock me. It would shock me.
I think I'd be more surprised to see an 8-4 than 11-1.
Really?
Yep.
Or 9-4.
9-4, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what
maybe
they were
8.
last
Well, yeah. It was
they were 9-4 last year.
It would more surprise me to see them repeat last year than it would be to see them improve to 11-1.
Yeah.
So again, that might be biased. We'll see. Yeah, that might be biased, but
I'm not a Clemson hater. I like what they do.
For sure. Neither of y'all teams do I hate. NC State, sometimes I'm like, but I don't hate them. But that's all. That's going to wrap up our rankings. Real quick, let's hit this really quick. Let's go through some awards. So we all prepared 4 awards that we're going to talk about. We'll hit them real quick. Elevator pitch on them. Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and the best quarterback. We'll go with the one that's kind of a made-up award. Who do you think the best quarterback this year will be?
I got Cam Ward in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of different people picking him for maybe even the Player of the Year for the ACC. I want to be different, so I'm gonna. I got to be biased. I'm gonna roll the dice and take Grayson McCall.
Yeah, go ahead, take him.
I'm gonna. I have high hopes for what he has in store for NC State.
I want to be different, but I'm not going to. I think it's going to be Cam Ward. I just think his ability, his style, everything that he's bringing to the table, I think he's going to be really well, especially in that Miami system. What about Defensive Player of the Year? Who do y'all have for this one?
So I actually have a Clemson player, Barrett Carter, linebacker for Clemson. I was looking through the different the top people to watch for this year, and his kind of was standing out. He had 62 tackles last year, 9.5 for loss, and almost 4 sacks last season. If he can duplicate those numbers, I don't see any why he couldn't end up being the defensive player of the year for the ACC.
Yeah, I actually also have Barrett Carter, linebacker, Clemson. And if my prediction holds true, it'll be because Clemson's punting the ball a lot, and the defense is going to be on the field a lot to give him plenty of opportunity to rack up tackles. And I think Clemson will just be a really strong defensive team. So, leader on a really strong defensive team that has a lot of opportunity to play defense. I think that's a good formula to win.
I also have Barrett Carter, so that's going to sweep right here.
Sweep.
I think just this defense too stout. He's definitely going to be the leader. He's taken over for Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who went to the NFL. So I think he'll be there. We got a great linebacker room this year. We've got McLeod, we've got Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, and then we also got a really good freshman, Sammy Brown, coming up. So I think Barrett's going to lead us in his senior year. Offensive player of the year.
Mine's Cam Ward. Same thing.
Okay.
It's been a quarterback for several years in a row, so I don't see that changing.
Anthony?
All right. So I am going to roll the dice again, and I am very biased. So I'm throwing that out there, so don't come at me. I'm taking Kevin Concepcion. Last year, he had Braden Armstrong throwing to him. He was targeted 71 times for 839 yards, 10 touchdowns. I think, and he won the Rookie of the Year for the ACC. I believe that with a way better quarterback and Grayson McCall coming in, I think that he can do way better than what he was able to produce last year. So I'm taking Kevin Concepcion for the ACC Offensive Player of the Year.
So I think that's a good pick. Those two are two that I thought about. I'll be honest, Michael, I also had Cam Ward. So our lists were identical. I'll change it up just for fun, just to keep it different. I do think it'll be I mean, it won't be Cam Ward. It'll be I'll go Phil Maffa. I think the year he's going to have is going to be crazy. I'm literally deleting something and typing Phil Maffa right now, but I'll go Phil.
Those picks are good. It's been a quarterback for just several years.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm not going to pick against that.
If Cam Ward has the year that everybody's expecting, it'll be him. But Concepcion, I honestly thought about him because he's last year made such a difference as a freshman. Seeing him with a year under his belt with a much improved quarterback, he's going to be great this year. Easily all ACC first team in the conference.
Like I was saying earlier, bringing in another good wide receiver, they're not going to focus on him as much, which I think could open up opportunities for him. So that's my opinion.
I agree. I think Phil Maffa, I'm putting him there. I think he's going to be a real workhorse for our offense this year. Get the ball a lot. It would not surprise me to see him get some of the most carries in the nation, which is not used to Clemson. We're very a platoon squad all around. Many years in a row. I think our offensive line every year except for this past year for the last 7 years has played 10 or more guys consistently. So I think it'll be different. I think Phil Maffa will get it and get that award. So let's wrap it up with this. Coach of the year. Who's it going to be?
I've got Dave Dorian. I think if NC State finishes second, has a 2-loss year, I think it'll be him.
I think that's a great pick, Michael. Gonna throw that out there. I'm going to agree with you. I do have them in the top 2 making it to the ACC championship. NC State hasn't won a national or ACC championship since '79. I would love to keep the trend going of NC State excelling during my lifetime. So I think that the double-digit win season, hopefully making it to the playoffs, I'm picking Dave Doran.
So I really, really wanted to put Dabo Swinney here because I think for him having the last 3 years that he's had, which everybody talks about last 3 years are terrible, he only went 31-10, which is still one of the best in the ACC. He also only lost 7 games in the ACC over those 3 years, which is I believe that's the best in that span by any ACC school. But we had to down 3 years. Terrible 3 years. But I think with him having all that narrative, with the no transfer portal, with all that, if he comes back and leads this team to an ACC championship or gets that conference and makes it to the playoffs, he deserves Coach of the Year showing he could do it his way. I don't think we could win the national championship and go undefeated. I don't think they gave it to him just because that's like basketball. They usually give it to coaches that shatter expectations. So I would go, I agree with you, and I'm going Dave Doran. I think he's got great potential. Everything's trending up for NC State, and I think that's going to show. So, Michael, if I didn't change that Cam Ward Offensive Player of the Year, we had the exact same list. Yeah.
Nice.
So should be fun. Should be a fun year. So, guys, I really appreciate y'all doing this. Appreciate y'all hopping on. It's been a lot of fun this week talking through this subject. Hey, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for having us.
So hopefully at the end of the season, we'll pull us all back and talk about what we thought about, see how our predictions
going 11-1.
See if it goes better than our basketball.
Our basketball was not good. I think I won that, didn't I?
I think so.
Yeah, just a subtle brag, but I'm just kidding. Because it mattered so much. But anyway, all right, thanks, guys. So I appreciate it. That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. We'll see y'all next time. And that's going to wrap up this episode, but also this series of our ACC standings and our predictions and all these conversations with Michael and Anthony here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this series. We're going to have them on again later on. But for now, don't forget to join our Locked On Clemson Insider program where you get one-on-one chats with me. You get sending questions and comments that we'll address on the show. You get bonus videos only for our insiders, like mailbag episodes, like episodes where we go through, answer your questions, and we even do some film breakdown on all that. So make sure you join on all of those. But you can join that by texting Clemson to 864-252-1907. But let us know your thoughts on today's topics. Let us know your thoughts on this whole series. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't, drop a comment, hit us up on Twitter. Make sure you follow Anthony and Michael over on Twitter at Duke Blue Central and at @Amaro_RCSD to keep up with them and show them some love. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast wherever you hear a podcast at, or if you're watching over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That way, every single day, this could be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Make sure to check out one of our over 200 other shows on Locked On Clemson podcast, where it is your team every day. I love that Locked On ACC show. It's got great stuff. But we can't wait to see you in next week's episode. Have a great weekend. Until then, keep that Tiger Pride alive and roaring. And you know what to do. As always, we end it with this. Go Tigers.